Well, firstly, so thrilled to meet you. Having feels like I've spent a lot of time with you in my head, and I'm sure Tom feels the same. So to actually meet you is a real pleasure.
Before it goes too far, let me show Tom. That's the U.S. Navy wings.
Oh, wow. The real thing, the real McCoy. That's the thing. You're the real thing.
If you could tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Cornwall in 1980, you could tell us a bit about that.
The Navy has a program called Personnel Exchange Program, and they send British pilots to the United States to learn to speak American, and we send American pilots to Britain to learn how to speak English. I arrived in September of '79, and we left about 3 weeks later because I was already received my next assignment to go to the States. And so it made sense that I would take the search and rescue duty that night, well, for the weekend and stuff through the holiday.
Do you mind me asking how old you remember being at that time?
I think I was 34, 33, 34, right around then, a lifetime ago.
Agile, young and vibrant, and probably embracing challenge and opportunity, and it all being quite exciting. But I guess it's only when a situation like 19th of December 1981 happens that it becomes a much greater impact on your senses when you're hit with a real life drama and you're not quite sure what the result's going to be.
The Royal Navy tour was probably one of my very best that I enjoyed. Obviously, with the exception of the Pen Lady. We have some lifelong friends from that time. You know, Cliff Squibb, who lives right near you down there, he was the duty officer that evening. And we've remained well connected, Sue and Cliff.
How does Penley fit into your overall, I suppose, comparisons to other rescues you've been involved with, or other kind of events through your career?
I've lost friends before in the military before that point, but as far as rescues, nothing compares to that. Absolutely nothing. It was extremely violent that night. It got really rough, and the sea picked up, I'd almost say exponentially. But they say it was 40 to 50 feet, and it was out at sea. I don't think the captain on the Union Star realized how quickly he was drifting into the shore. And we have a radar on board our helicopter, and my observer, Steve Marlowe, was saying he's drifting really quick. He has to make a decision like now. So long story short, it was offered to launch the Penley, and we said, sure, why not? Maybe it'll encourage these people to come on out. And then they finally said, okay, we're going to let you start taking people off. And I said, okay, what order do you want to do it? And we'll take it. Probably the best place is right behind the wheelhouse. But then he said, we'll let the women and the girls go first. And we looked at each other like, what did he say? That was probably the biggest shock of the evening, was the women and the girls go first. We had no idea there were a woman and such on board.
I guess it just changes your sensation and feeling knowing that there are children and a woman on board in seas that rough when you weren't expecting it. I mean, it doesn't change your behavior.
Yeah, I put a much greater emphasis on getting the job done.
What did it feel like seeing the events dramatized? How did it feel?
Hopeless in many ways, on my count. And I don't know, it's just frustrating. I guess that's another good word. Very frustrating. We were doing everything right. When I heard about it, and my good friend told me, hey, you need to look at this. anyhow, so I saw it. I was very questioning how would you handle that, and would it be factual and all that. And I was blown away. It was very factual, very to the point, very people oriented, which I really appreciate. Pinpointing the people that really were there and sadly paid the price, and all the people that still support them. Oh, I strongly encourage everybody to watch it. I really do. And it's not just because of the Penn Lee, it's because of the RNLI, it's because of all the people and the support people that help the RNLI and the Coast Guard and others that are volunteer organizations that don't get paid to go out there and literally put their life on the line to help other people. And they need that support. They really need it. If nothing else, verbal support, but for sure, physical and monetary support. I really hope that more people watch your show. I was fully impressed with the idea of thinking, well, they really don't have formal costumes and they really don't have, that sort of thing, but it really carried well. I was impressed. I guess the biggest thing is frustration, and I'll admit I had nightmares about it. I remember the people very, very, very intensely. Like reaching out and you can't quite touch them, that sort of thing. Not being able to do anything. So here we watched a ship crash, wreck, and there's no control over helping the people inside. The lifeboat came alongside and they were being significantly thrashed against the side of the ship, and then they'd hold there for a little while and then they'd back off or be forced by waves to move away and then come back in and such. And it was in all you could see sometimes when they'd come up alongside, the crew on the lifeboat stand on the rails and they'd be thrown forward, but they'd be reaching out when they're trying to, come on.
Trying to imagine you with the wind, and was it very difficult to actually the focus and concentration about being able to keep the helicopter steady in such dark weather, can't see, raining? You've obviously got this big searchlight, so you could see, not only were you having to keep the helicopter steady, but also being able to look down and see what was going on, and the knowledge that yes, if something hits your tail rotor, the waves, the splash, that could have put you. There was probably an element of you
would put us in the water immediately.
Incredible bravery as well, just the position you guys were in.
Well, the problem there was when they went sideways, that put them even closer to the cliff and made it even more difficult for us. And there was a point there where we're close to the cliff, and I lost sight of Taterdoo Light on the left-hand side over there. We didn't see the lighthouse. And we thought, okay, we're fairly close to the cliff. And I guess it were. And I look back at pictures and Google Map and that sort of thing and think how close I must have been, to not be able to see the light. Maybe 10 minutes to fly, I'll say downwind back to the base. We did a freshwater wash on the engines and decided to go right back out and see if we can help find where the lifeboat went to. And we went back out. It took us 45 minutes to get back into the wind to get back up there. I don't remember if it was while we were flying or very shortly after we came back the second time, but during that time frame, somebody said they found wreckage in Lamorna Cove. It became more and more hopeless as the time went on, and we were going back and forth on a standard search, to see if we could find anything from the coast out a couple miles and back in, and we didn't see anything, and we would have seen something, I think. And it appears, this is from hearsay, I don't know the fact, but it appears that they may have rolled in and gone underneath the coastal freighter when it rolled over. And that's why nobody could find it. So,
Wow.
and that would happen like that. Steve Marlowe goes down on the first time down the winch, and he comes back up, and he says, "She's wearing ruby red shoes." I said, "What are you talking about?" Anyhow, and the mother was wearing red shoes. Agreed. You know, that's a memory that's stuck with him and going to stick with him for forever, and by extension, it sticks with me too.
Mm.
You know, but there's a real person there. You know, it's not just a number. It's not just one of 8. You know, everybody is it's a very real person. I'm much more of a people-oriented person now, very much, very active in my church, you know, those kind of things.
40 years on, what do you look back and see as, I suppose, the legacy of such an awful event? But what do you see as, is there a legacy of Penley, and what would that be to you?
I think the legacy is to keep the memory alive, but more so keep people involved and keep supporting that sort of need, really. And what you did is at the 40th anniversary is great. I'm glad you didn't wait till the 50th, but you know, I'm almost 75, so you know. And I've watched my kids grow up and girlfriends and get married and have grandkids, and there's 16 people who didn't.
Are there ways in which you manage that? Or I suppose my question is, how do you manage that?
Compartmentalize. And I try and leave that part, you know, out of the memory as much as possible. You know, when it starts coming up, I try to think of some other things. But as you can tell, it just kind of pulls a tear, you know. Okay, I'll just out of the blue sit in some place and I'll start thinking about it and I'll start crying.
Do you somehow think of spirituality and yes, and death and religion even more than you probably did before after an event like that?
I don't see how you couldn't. I'm a believer, have always been, have, you know, fairly strong faith, but that kind of galvanizes it. On many occasions, when I get this little sort of an itch in the back of my neck, and that's causing me to look around and see what needs to be attended to, and that's pulled my backside out of some difficult situations by being aware of it before. You know, I also had the opportunity to, you know, to be an ambulance driver, you know, before I went in the service, and that gave me a real appreciation also at that point for people in their lives and things they go through and such.
A very useful itch to have. That when you feel the itch, it means that you need to check something and you don't quite know what it is. That's been your...
I call it God is my co-pilot. And that's where I think of it. I just say thank you.
Have you been back to Cornwall much, Russ? How is that a regular thing for you, or?
Yeah, it's every 2 to 3 years, roughly. You know, sometimes a little bit longer. It's wonderful that we've actually been able to connect with Neil and Martin and other people in Mousel, and it's taken a weight off my shoulders because I didn't feel worthy to go back, off my heart, to say the least. I didn't feel worthy to go back, and yet now they're welcoming me. That's kind of surprising to me, but I appreciate it. Well, there's a thing called survivor's guilt, which comes in, and I hope you never have to experience it.
And you sought comfort then in those connections with Mousel and the people concerned?
It's been a wonderful comfort, and it's been a great, I don't know, building friendships. So and we hope it continues.
And
Hang
they will
on.
do embrace.
I'm sorry, I'm sitting here listening. We've been married for 50 years. We're still going because neither one of us want to train anybody else. And all I can say, what I can remember of that night, is it sounded like a freight train of noise going on. The weather was so bad. And that's what it sounded like, this whirl and rush of noise outside. And I didn't see him until 6 the next morning. Pretty devastated. And when you get into a situation like that, as far as for us, it's not just for us, it's everybody has been affected by it. And I can see in his heart how much it's been painful for him in some ways to go back. And then I look at, there's got to be a healing process somewhere in there. And for the times that we've been back, we have just been embraced by a small village that are incredibly brave and wonderful people. New people are obviously in Mousel. And so when it comes time to turn the lights off for a minute on the 19th of December, people go, why? Because they're not invested in it. They don't feel that emotional, but you never can forget. I've had the privilege of going back with Russ several times. The last time we were there, they said, we're family. It will always be part of our life. I can't take the sadness out of his heart that we make it. I think every visit we go back, which I will say, he won't say it, that we're going back in September, because we want to see the memorial. It's part of our life. It's part of our story. And what we learn from it, Matt, embrace today, because you do not know what's going to happen tomorrow. I think he looked and he said, before I heard him say that God is my co-pilot, he's going to do the job knowing that he has the best skills, but he also has faith that if something happens, it's out of his control too. Anyway, on that note, I'm sorry to interrupt your meeting.
No, thank you so much.
Well, just to say that it was a real honor to try and do my best at knowing that you're with us, at playing a real life character. And of course, I'm just sat in some makeup. There was a joystick for the helicopter, but just with the sound in the room and just, imagining, and it's only 2% of the real thing, but it was a real honor to try and play yourself in the story. And I just commend you for your own bravery, and the fact that I really hope that you do find the internal peace, because I can imagine what it feels like being in a few situations myself.
My kudos sincerely to all the other actors, especially the guy that played Trevelyan Richards and Nigel Brockman and such. I mean, they were spot on. They were great. The script was exceedingly well researched. The people were fabulously presented, truthfully and accurately. And hearing the actual radio broadcasts that you used, that was significant. Yeah, but I thank you so much for doing this, and
that's the thing, isn't it? Keeping the memory of what people have done before you.
I strongly recommend just about everybody watch it. Thank you from my heart and from the bottom of the heart of really all the people down there in Mousel.
Okay.
I'd love to have a beer with you in Mousel, an ale or a beer, whatever your tipple is, in that village pub.
Mostly a Scotch drinker, but I will drink Cornish ale, no problem.
Okay. I would be delighted to have a Scotch or a Cornish ale or any of the above in Mousel with you one day. That would be really wonderful.
Be good. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And blessings to you and your family.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Blessings to you.